Ethan stormed out of Cynthia's apartment, his heart pounding with a mix of shock and rage. He had gone there straight from work, happy and excited to surprise her with flowers. But instead, he walked in and saw Cynthia in bed with his own brother, Alfred. The pain hit him hard. He couldn't believe what he had seen. Ethan's chest felt tight as he walked quickly down the street. His hand squeezed the flowers so hard they got crushed, and he angrily threw them into a trash can. His head spun. He kept seeing the same picture. It hurt more the longer he thought about it. His anger kept growing as he walked, trying to calm down but failing. After some time, he found a small restaurant. He went inside and ordered some food, even though he wasn't hungry. He just needed a quiet place to sit and think. Ethan sat at the table, staring at the food without touching it. His heart pounded. He couldn't stop thinking about Cynthia and Alfred. How could they do this to me? He sat there for a while, lost in his thoughts. Then he stood up to leave. His mind was so busy thinking about the betrayal that he didn't notice he had forgotten his wallet on the table. A short while later, a young woman named Anna walked into the restaurant. She looked very tired and hungry. Her clothes were old and dirty. It was clear she had been living on the streets. She hadn't eaten in days, and when she saw the untouched food on Ethan's table, she couldn't stop staring at it. She quickly sat down and began eating the leftover food, hoping no one would notice. Suddenly, Ethan came back into the restaurant. He had remembered his wallet. When he saw Anna eating his food, he froze, his frustration boiling over again. "What are you doing? Are you stealing my food?" he shouted, his voice sharp. Anna jumped in surprise. Her eyes went wide with fear. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, her voice shaking. "I didn't mean to steal. I was just so hungry." But Ethan was too angry to care. He was still full of pain from what happened with Cynthia and Alfred. "That's not my problem. You can't just take what doesn't belong to you," he snapped. "I haven't eaten in days," Anna said softly, almost in tears. "I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I was just desperate." But Ethan didn't listen. His heart was too full of anger to feel anything else. "Leave," he said harshly. Anna's eyes filled with tears. She apologized again, stood up quickly, and rushed out of the restaurant. Ethan sat down and picked up his wallet. He thought about Anna's words. A small part of him felt guilty, but he pushed the feeling away. Later that night, Ethan still couldn't stop thinking about what happened. He was still angry, still confused. He picked up his phone and called Cynthia. He didn't even know why he was calling. Maybe he wanted an explanation. Maybe he just didn't want to face the party alone tomorrow. When Cynthia answered, her voice was cold and sharp. She didn't want to talk about what happened. She didn't even want to talk about the party. Without hesitation, she told him it was over. Their relationship was finished. She didn't want to see him again. Ethan sat in silence, holding the phone. No apology. No explanation. Nothing. Frustration and sadness filled him. But now, he had another problem. He still had to go to the party tomorrow. And he needed someone to stand by his side. It wasn't the kind of event where you arrived without a partner. Ethan needed someone with him, and he needed to figure it out quickly. Sitting alone in his living room, an idea suddenly sparked in his mind. Anna, the homeless girl he had chased out of the restaurant. He couldn't forget her face. Even with the dirt and exhaustion of life on the streets, her beauty had shown through. If she could clean up, she could easily pass as his date for the party. The idea sounded ridiculous at first, but the more Ethan thought about it, the more it made sense. He needed a partner, and Anna was his best shot. The next morning, Ethan got dressed and headed out, determined to find her. He wasn't sure if she would still be around, but he had to try. He searched the streets for a while, scanning the places where he had last seen her. Eventually, he spotted her sitting in a corner. As Ethan approached, Anna noticed him immediately. Her expression hardened. She clearly remembered how he had treated her. She wasn't happy to see him, not after the way he had shouted at her in the restaurant. He quickly apologized, trying to explain that he had been going through a lot that day and didn't handle the situation well. His voice was calmer now, less harsh, but Anna didn't soften. "Why are you here?" she asked sharply, not bothering to hide her distrust. Ethan took a deep breath and told her everything. He explained how his girlfriend had broken up with him and that he now needed someone to attend the party with him. He told her she was beautiful, and with a little preparation, she would be perfect for the event. Anna laughed bitterly. She shook her head, clearly amused by the ridiculousness of his request. After how he had treated her, he now wanted her help. A homeless girl at a fancy party? She refused, flat out. She didn't trust him, and she wasn't interested in helping him save face. But Ethan didn't give up. He quickly offered to pay her, a sum large enough to make her stop and think. It was more money than she had ever imagined having. It could get her off the streets, at least for a while. Anna hesitated. She didn't want to owe him anything. She didn't want to feel like she was being bought. But the money was too much to ignore. It could buy her food, maybe even a place to stay for a few days. After a long pause, she finally agreed. "This is just business," she said firmly. "I'm not doing this for you." Ethan nodded, relieved that she had accepted. The plan was now in motion. When Anna later stood in front of the mirror, she was amazed at her transformation. The elegant dress Ethan had bought fit her perfectly. Her hair was styled neatly, her face fresh and glowing after a proper wash and a touch of makeup. She hardly recognized herself. When Ethan arrived to pick her up, he was stunned. He couldn't speak for a moment. He just stared at her, surprised by how breathtaking she looked. More beautiful than he had ever imagined. When they arrived at the party, all eyes turned to them. People whispered and stared as Anna walked confidently by Ethan's side. She wasn't used to this kind of attention, but she held her head high. Throughout the night, guests approached Ethan, asking who his stunning date was. He smiled, keeping the truth to himself, simply introducing her as Anna. Just when Ethan thought the night was going well, everything changed. His stomach turned when he saw Cynthia walk into the room, holding tightly onto Alfred's arm. Ethan's chest felt heavy. He shouldn't have been surprised, but it still hurt badly. Alfred had always stayed distant, always found small ways to push Ethan aside. Ethan never understood why. He had never tried to compete with his brother. He had never wanted to take anything from him. But somehow, Alfred always treated him like a rival. And now, Alfred had taken something that truly mattered. Ethan had loved Cynthia. She wasn't just another girlfriend. He had wanted a future with her. He had trusted her. Ethan felt anger, but tonight, Ethan refused to let them ruin him. He forced a small smile, straightened his jacket, and turned to Anna. They walked around the party together, meeting people, having short chats, and even sharing a few laughs. Anna helped him get through the night. After the party, Ethan gave Anna the large sum of money he had promised her. She took it, knowing it was more than she had ever held in her hands before. She thanked him and walked away, believing their arrangement was now over. Ethan returned home that night, feeling relieved that everything was finally behind him. But his peace didn't last long. The next morning, his father came to visit him. His father wasn't the type to waste time on small talk. He was strict and old-fashioned, especially when it came to family matters. As soon as he stepped into Ethan's home, he went straight to the point. His father told him he needed to get married before the end of the year. If he failed to do so, the family company would be handed over to his brother. The words hit Ethan hard. He had not seen this coming. The company meant everything to him. Losing it would be a disaster. He had worked hard for it, and he wasn't ready to let it slip away, especially not to his brother. Ethan quickly told his father that he was already engaged. It was a lie, but it was the only thing he could think of to buy himself time. His father questioned why he hadn't told the family about such an important information. Ethan calmly said that it had happened recently, and he hadn't had the chance to share the news yet. His father wasn't satisfied but made it clear that he wanted to meet her soon. After his father left, Ethan sat in silence, his mind racing. He had no fiancée. He had no plan. But one face came to his mind, Anna. The next morning, Ethan left his house right away to look for her. He didn't know where she might be, but he was determined to find her. After searching for a while, he finally spotted her sitting alone in a small cafe. She looked much different from the last time he had seen her on the streets. With the money he had given her, she had managed to rent a small room and buy herself some proper clothes. Ethan walked into the restaurant and approached her table. She was surprised to see him again but didn't send him away. He sat across from her and carefully explained why he had come. His father had given him a deadline. He had to get married before the end of the year, or he would lose the company to his brother. It was no longer enough to have a fake girlfriend. He now needed an actual wife. Ethan told her it would be a contract marriage, strictly business. The marriage would last for 1 year, and then they would go their separate ways. He promised to pay her a large sum of money, far more than what he had given her before. He also offered to rent a proper apartment for her so she wouldn't have to go back to struggling. Anna listened quietly, but the offer felt too strange. She shook her head and turned him down. Getting married, even on paper, was something she didn't want to involve herself in. Ethan smiled gently. He reached into his pocket, took out his business card, and placed it on the table in front of her. "Take a few days to think about it," he said kindly. "If you change your mind, call me." With that, he stood up and quietly left the restaurant, leaving Anna sitting there, staring at the card. Weeks passed. Anna had carried Ethan's business card with her every day, tucked safely in her bag. No matter how much she tried to ignore it, the offer lingered in her mind. She had replayed their conversation over and over, weighing the risks, the strangeness of the deal, and the life it could offer her. The thought of stability, of finally stepping off the streets for good, was hard to let go. The small room she had rented was better than sleeping outside, but it wasn't home. One morning, with her heart pounding, she made her decision. Anna went to Ethan's company. The tall glass building was nothing like the places she usually walked into. She felt out of place as she stepped through the front doors, but she reminded herself why she was there. The receptionist asked who she was there to see, and when she said Ethan's name, she was quickly directed to his office. When she entered, Ethan looked up from his desk, surprised to see her standing there. "I've thought about your offer," Anna said, her voice calm but firm. "I'll do it. I'll marry you." Ethan didn't hide his relief. He stood and offered her a seat, explaining that his lawyers had already prepared the documents. The agreement was simple, a 1-year contract marriage. They would live together, attend family events, and play the part of a real couple. At the end of the year, they would quietly divorce, and she would receive everything he promised: money, a new apartment, a fresh start. Once the papers were signed, Ethan told her they needed to get ready for what was coming next. That same day, he took her shopping. They visited expensive stores, choosing elegant clothes and fine shoes. He made sure she had everything she needed to fit into his world. Anna was hesitant at first, not used to being surrounded by luxury, but Ethan guided her through it all with patience. He also took her to a high-end salon. Her hair was carefully done, her nails freshly polished, and her skin glowed after the pampering she had never experienced before. As she stood in front of the mirror afterward, she could hardly recognize herself. She looked polished, confident, like someone who belonged in the spaces Ethan moved in. Ethan watched her silently, realizing just how much she had changed in just a few hours. They were officially bound to each other now. A marriage on paper, but soon they would have to convince the entire world it was real. Soon, it was time for Ethan to introduce Anna to his family. If his father didn't believe the relationship, he could lose everything. But despite his nerves, Ethan felt confident that Anna would do her part. Together, they headed to Ethan's family home. When they arrived at the grand family estate, the sight of the house towered over them. It was a place that spoke of wealth and power. Ethan glanced at Anna, wondering how she was feeling, but as soon as they stepped out of the car, she straightened her posture and wore the confident smile she had practiced. She was ready. The moment they walked into the house, Ethan's father was already waiting for them in the grand living room. His sharp eyes immediately swept over Anna, sizing her up without a word. He had been doubtful when Ethan first mentioned he had a fiancée. Now that the moment had come, he was eager to see who this mysterious woman really was. Anna stepped forward, her calm and elegant presence filling the room. She greeted Ethan's father politely, her voice respectful. Anna didn't try too hard to impress, but her natural charm was undeniable. Before long, Ethan's father was captivated. The way Anna carried herself, the way she spoke, it all seemed genuine. He had expected someone shallow or materialistic, but instead, he found a woman who appeared thoughtful, kind, and composed. He was impressed, something Ethan hadn't seen from his father in a long time. By the end of the evening, Ethan's father was completely won over. At one point, he even pulled Ethan aside and quietly told him that Anna was exactly the kind of woman he had always hoped his son would marry. He praised her intelligence, her beauty, and most of all, her graceful composure. Ethan was relieved, though slightly surprised by how easily things had turned in their favor. His father, who was rarely pleased, had been convinced, completely. By the time they were ready to leave, it was clear that Anna had left a lasting impression. As they drove away from the estate, Ethan couldn't help but glance at Anna sitting quietly in the passenger seat. When they pulled up in front of her apartment, Ethan parked the car and paused for a moment, resting his hands on the steering wheel. Anna turned to him, her expression serious but calm. "We should be clear about something," she said softly. "This is strictly business. No romance. No feelings." Ethan nodded, meeting her gaze. "Of course," he agreed. She gave a small approving nod, as if they had just sealed an unspoken rule. "We keep it simple. Employer and employee. Nothing else." "Exactly," Ethan confirmed. Anna thanked him for the ride and stepped out of the car. Ethan watched her as she disappeared into her building. A few days later, Ethan's father called with another invitation. His 70th birthday was coming up, and the entire family would be gathering to celebrate. His father made it clear, Ethan was expected to bring Anna along. When Ethan told Anna, she agreed without hesitation. They both understood this would be another test, but neither of them imagined just how difficult the evening would become. As they arrived at the family estate, Ethan's father greeted Anna with warm enthusiasm. His face lit up the moment he saw her, treating her as though she was already part of the family. But not everyone welcomed her. Ethan's mother was different. From the moment Anna stepped into the house, the coldness in his mother's eyes was sharp and deliberate. She watched Anna closely, her gaze trailing her with quiet suspicion. And it didn't help that Alfred was there, with Cynthia proudly on his arm. His mother adored Cynthia. She showered her with attention, complimented her dress, laughed at her jokes, and spoke to her with a warmth she never offered Anna. Worse still, the mother didn't hold back when it came to Ethan. She made harsh comments about his life, his decisions, and his failures, as though he had always been the disappointment compared to his brother. Anna heard every word. She watched as Ethan quietly swallowed his pride, pretending the words didn't sting him. But they did. As the evening went on, Ethan did his best to stay distant from Cynthia and Alfred, but they always seemed to be in his line of sight. Cynthia laughed loudly at Alfred's jokes, leaning into him as if to make sure Ethan could see. She kept glancing at Ethan from across the room, watching him carefully. Then, just as Ethan turned in their direction, Cynthia leaned in and kissed Alfred, slowly, with enough passion to make sure Ethan saw it. His chest tightened as he quickly looked away, pretending not to care. But Anna had seen it all. Later that evening, when Ethan and Anna stepped away from the noise and found a quiet corner in the garden, Anna finally spoke. "She doesn't like me," Anna said softly, her gaze resting on the ground. Ethan looked at her and asked gently, "Who?" Anna glanced up, her voice steady. "Your mom." Ethan sighed. "She never likes anyone I bring home." "She's harsh to you," Anna added, her voice firmer now. "You don't deserve that." "It's nothing new," Ethan said, but his shoulders were tense. "She's always favored my brother. I've stopped trying to change it." Anna looked at him, her expression kind and steady. "You don't have to try to change her," she said. "But don't ever believe that you're less." Her words settled into him, cutting through the ache he had quietly carried for years. "Thank you," Ethan said quietly. As the night drew to a close, Ethan's father pulled him aside. "I'm pleased," his father said, his voice firm but satisfied. "She's a good woman. I think you should start planning the wedding. A month from now." Ethan blinked. A month. Everything was moving faster than he had planned, but there was no turning back now. The arrangement was about to become real. As Ethan drove Anna home that evening, he told her that his father wanted the wedding to happen in about a month. There was no more waiting. His father wanted things to move quickly. Anna agreed. She understood this was part of the plan. The next step was to make their engagement public. Soon after, Ethan and Anna released the wedding announcement. Their pictures appeared in newspapers and on social media. After the announcement, Ethan and Anna started spending more time together. They went to dinners, parties, and family events. At first, it was just to keep up the act. But as the days passed, they started to get comfortable with each other. They laughed together. They shared quiet moments. Slowly, Things stopped feeling like a job. Far away from all this, Cynthia heard the news. She was angry. Even though she was now with Alfred, it hurt to see Ethan moving on with someone else. She didn't like it. She became curious about Anna. She wanted to know who she really was. Cynthia started digging into Anna's life, asking questions, paying people to find out more. It didn't take long before she found out the truth. Anna used to be homeless. She used to beg for food on the streets. Ethan had once thrown her out of a restaurant. Cynthia had been waiting for the right moment. When she finally picked up her phone and called Ethan's mother, she knew exactly what she wanted to say. She told her she had something important to share, something she needed to hear in person. They met at a quiet restaurant later that day. Cynthia wasted no time. She told Ethan's mother everything. She explained that Ethan and Anna's engagement was not real. It was all a lie. Ethan had picked Anna up from the streets. She had been a beggar, an orphan with nothing, and now they were pretending to be in love just to get the company. As Cynthia spoke, Ethan's mother listened closely. A small smile formed on her face as the pieces finally fit together. She felt satisfied. This was the chance she had been waiting for. The truth would finally bring everything back to where it should be. The company would no longer go to Ethan. She left the restaurant feeling pleased. The news she had just heard would help her fix what she believed had gone wrong. When she got home, she went straight to her husband and told him everything, how Ethan and Anna's engagement was fake, how it was all just a contract. She explained that Ethan had picked Anna from the streets, a girl with no family and no home, and had been pretending all along. Her husband listened quietly. He didn't get angry. Instead, he told her he had seen Ethan and Anna together many times, and what he saw was two people slowly falling in love, even if they hadn't admitted it yet. To him, it didn't matter how their story began. What mattered was where they were now and what could grow from it. But Ethan's mother wasn't happy with that answer. Her voice rose. She couldn't understand why he was so willing to give the company to Ethan. She shouted that Ethan wasn't even his real son. She reminded him of the affair he had years ago, of the other woman who had died and left behind a child. She said she had been forced to raise a child that didn't even belong to her, and now he wanted to hand everything to that child? She said the company should go to Alfred, her own son, the one who truly belonged. At that moment, Ethan had just arrived at the house. He was about to open the door to his father's study when he heard the raised voices. He paused, listening as his mother's words pierced through him. His heart sank as he heard her say he was never really hers, that he didn't deserve the family's name or the company. Slowly, he pushed the door open and stepped inside. Both his parents turned to face him. Ethan's eyes were filled with pain and anger. He looked at his mother and asked if this was why she had never loved him, why she always made him feel like he didn't belong. He said now he understood why he always had to fight for her approval. It was because he was never her child. He turned to his father and told him he didn't want the company anymore. He said he was done chasing something that would never bring him peace. The company could go to Alfred. Without waiting for anyone to speak, Ethan walked out of the room, leaving his mother's harsh words. His chest tightened as he drove, each memory of her coldness now making sense. Without thinking much, he drove straight to Anna's house. He needed to see her. He needed to be around someone who made him feel safe. When Anna opened the door and saw him standing there, she knew something was wrong. His face looked tired, his shoulders low. He was always so controlled, but tonight, he looked like a man carrying too much pain. She let him in quietly. He sat on the couch, his head in his hands. Anna sat beside him, gently placing her hand on his back. She didn't ask him what was wrong. She simply stayed close, giving him the space to speak when he was ready. After a while, Ethan looked up and told her everything. He told her about what his mother had said, about not being her child. He told Anna he had walked away from the company. He no longer wanted it. Then, his voice softened. He told her he had also broken the contract between them. He said he had fallen in love with her, and he knew that wasn't what they agreed to. The contract was supposed to be business only, but he had crossed the line. He told her she didn't have to stay. The deal was off. But he would still keep his word. He would pay her everything he promised. She was free to leave now if that's what she wanted. Ethan stood up, ready to walk away from everything. But as he turned to leave, Anna called his name. She stood up and told him she loved him too. She had been falling for him all this time but didn't know how to say it. She didn't want to walk away from what they had built. They both smiled for the first time that evening. There was no more contract between them, no more pretending. They decided to keep the engagement going, not because they had to, but because they truly wanted to. They were choosing each other. Some weeks later, Cynthia drifted away from Alfred. She had always chased after things that glittered, and now her attention had moved to someone else, someone new, someone she believed could offer her more. Alfred didn't see it coming. He thought he had one when he took Cynthia from Ethan, but now he was the one left behind, heartbroken and alone. Meanwhile, Ethan's life was beginning to settle. One afternoon, his father invited him to the family estate to talk. They sat together quietly, father and son. Ethan's father told him he had made his decision about the company. The company would be given to him. His father explained that it was never really about the company. It was about watching Ethan grow, about seeing if he was ready to commit to something beyond work, to build a life with someone, to have a family. He told Ethan that the company had always been meant for him. He had seen Ethan's hard work, his passion, and his dedication. After his father officially tells him the company is his, he takes a quiet moment to reflect. The company was something he fought so hard for, something he thought he needed to prove himself. But now he realizes it's no longer about proving anything to his mother or anyone else. He has Anna. He has a life that he chose for himself. He has finally stopped chasing the love that was never offered and started living for his own happiness. Ethan's mother watches from a distance. She still struggles with bitterness, but Ethan no longer seeks her approval. He no longer tries to fix what was never his to fix. In the end, Ethan chooses peace, love, and his own family, with Anna.